Hello, my name is Kai and I am a bit of a rambler. Today I want to talk about haircuts because I have one country that I like to get haircuts in and a whole bunch of countries I don't really care about getting haircuts in. It's fine, but meh. China has the best haircuts of any country I've been to. They're certainly the cheapest or among the cheapest. Sometimes there's just an old man or woman with a chair on the sidewalk, and you sit down in the chair. They have one straight razor, and they're really good with it, and they can cut pretty much whatever picture you give them and that. And I did that a lot. I did that a bunch of times. But that's not why I love Chinese haircuts, although it is super fun to have a grandpa straight razoring away your hair and layering it and doing all this fancy stuff with just one simple razor and a chair on the sidewalk and a sign that reads 5 renminbi or something like that. China, I believe, is also the only country in which I've gotten a professional haircut and not been nicked accidentally at some point or another. Especially those old people with the straight razors. They are extremely skilled. But if I'm talking really, like the realiest, the hair wash that Chinese barbers give you first is why I like getting a haircut in China so much. It doesn't really stand on ceremony. It's not a luxurious spa wash, or it's not going to take 20 minutes. There's a different 20-minute spa-like procedure that I'll talk about in another episode, but this is about the haircuts. But they do give you a very thorough hair and scalp wash before they cut your hair usually. Usually, it's included in the $2 to $3 price of the haircut. Sometimes it is $1 extra, roughly. And when I say dollar, I'm talking about US dollars, and when I say yuan or renminbi, I'm talking about the Chinese money. But whenever I say dollars, I'm talking about USD in these episodes. So what's so nice is that before you get your haircut, you kind of have an indication by how they wash your hair of how well they're going to take care of you. And they always take care of you well. It's just that the hair wash is that demonstration, that first step of you entering an establishment and knowing, okay, these people are here to do a good job on my hair because look how much they care about this preliminary step. So after you come in with a reference photo or talk to them about what you want for your haircut, they lay you down, put the hairdressing cloak over you, and they lay you next to these chairs with sinks behind them, and then recline you back until your head is half inside the specific head sink for that chair for washing hair. They run warm water over your hair and tousle your hair to make sure that every part of your hair is damp. And that's already pretty comfortable, like a pre-massage before the massage that's actually just a hair wash, but it feels like a massage to me. Then they lather your hair up with shampoo, massaging it in gently, and then all of a sudden they'll break into a very forceful scrub, even using their nails, but they aren't, violently scratching your scalp or anything. They're just scrubbing very deeply, and it feels fantastic. That's where it feels most like a deep hair wash and scalp massage to me already, when they're really forcefully washing my hair with the shampoo in. It's very comfortable. They'll do it for a few minutes and make sure that the soap has gotten everywhere down to the base of your hair and into your scalp, and that they're pulling out all the extra scalp skin and just really cleaning out your hair with that hair wash. And they do it all day, so they never tangle your hair. It's never painful. It always just feels like a very good deep clean. This wash/mini massage is fantastic. It's one of my favorite experiences in life. Worth the extra dollar if you have to pay it instead of the $2 you're already paying. And this is my favorite part of the haircut game. And I had no idea it was part of the haircut game in China. So let's break this up real quick. I'd like to talk about how I first discovered that washing your hair and getting this forceful, while gentle scalp massage is part of the haircut game in China for the first time. When I first moved to China, I lived outside of the city in a small town called Baijiatuan, 45 minutes west on like a motor scooter of the city center. The proximate location of that town actually has a subway station now, so you can just go straight out to there. Oh, except they have destroyed the entire town, so there's no Baijiatuan anymore, unfortunately. When I visited last year, I found that out. Just giant hills of broken brick and rubble where a town used to be, and apartment buildings and all sorts of things. Just all broken stone and mortar and rebar. But 10 years ago, there were the center ring subway stations and a couple straight lines, and that's pretty much it. The subway system has expanded massively in the last decade in China. But anyway, when I was there in my first year in China, that town, a 45-minute ride on a scooter outside of the city center, was far enough away that I was, according to the people of the town, the second white person they had ever seen in real life. That's how consolidated these Chinese cities are, and the tourist industry in China, that you go for a 20-minute car ride outside of the city and nobody has seen a foreigner before. It's pretty wild. So that means that every time I left my apartment in that town, which was mostly to buy baozi, the steamed buns for breakfast or lunch or dinner, because I was trying to save money in the beginning, and the baozi were huge, delicious steamed buns with pork inside and a soft bready outside, and they only cost 10 cents? No, I guess like 16 cents, but they cost basically nothing. And it was enough food for the day, a few of them. Sometimes I would walk around town to translate the Chinese characters, none of which I knew at all. I still had the 1, 2, 3, er san, lancelusa, hongsa, blue, green, red, or yellow, whatever it was. I knew like 3 colors and 3 numbers. But every time I went out, every single person in the town was staring at me with frog eyes, like I had 3 arms and 2 noses. And it took months before people stopped staring at me. Actually, it took months before some people stopped staring at me. A lot of them, the whole time I lived in Baijiatuan, which might have been a year, I'm not sure how long exactly, every single time I left the apartment, they were staring at me. And it wasn't anything violent or aggressive. It was just like blatant, bald curiosity. Like when you're walking behind a parent holding a baby over their shoulder and the baby's just staring at you, just boring their eyes into you. But it was really funny because every time I went inside my apartment, it seemed like the town forgot that anybody was there. And then as soon as I left, it was like everybody in town was jolted into the reality that there was a foreign interloper. But like I said, I never felt like an actual interloper. And the whole time I lived there, everyone was as nice as they could be to someone who couldn't speak their language, and I never felt harassed in any way. And when I did develop conversational skills, all of the conversations were very friendly. But my own ineptitude and the overwhelming amount of attention I received when I walked outside, it kept me from visiting the barber because I was pretty worried about going in there, giving them the wrong description of what I wanted, asking for the wrong amount of money, giving them the wrong amount of money, not knowing what services they provided because there was a huge price list. But I was like, well, what else do you have on a list except for cut hair? And at that point, I barely even knew how to use the dictionary I had. So there was just a lot of confusion, and I was kind of intimidated about going into a fairly specific business like a barber shop to ask for a haircut. So every day I would buy vegetables or meat or baozi, whatever from the market, and I would cast furtive glances at the barber shop, kind of psyching myself up like, you're gonna get that haircut one day. And then eventually my hair was just too long, and I started preparing for going into the shop in real life instead of in my head. So I prepped beforehand. I had a bunch of pictures of Tom Cruise with shaggy hair from Mission Impossible 2, which is what I was looking for. Since we look basically identical. No. I wanted my hair shorter, but I still wanted some shag, some length, and flair. So I had a whole bunch of pictures of him on my phone for reference, for the barber's sake, and then I studied the word for haircut like 100 times, li fa, cut hair. And I just kept saying that word, li fa, li fa. Except back then, I was probably just saying li fa or something like that, some completely wrong pronunciation and the wrong tones and everything. because I hadn't even developed my tone recognition yet. Robot, question, unsure, angry in that earlier episode I mentioned. So I had no consistency over tones or pronunciation of Chinese at all. But I listened to the pronunciation of Li Fa like 100 times, and I said it poorly 100 times. I checked the sign above the shop. I matched it with the squiggles I had no way of understanding yet on my phone dictionary, and then I just kept practicing. Li Fa, Li Fa, Li Fa. And then I was convinced that is a barber shop. That's the word for haircut. If you just go in there and say haircut enough times, they'll probably give you a haircut. It might not look like what you want, but that's a place to start. So one day I swore under my breath multiple times, stepped out of the apartment building and into the bright sun and immediately curious stares of everyone in the village. Oh, he's still here. And it was like being perp walked in front of an audience, except I was perp walking myself. And the barbershop was really close to my apartment, but down an alley that's like 10 meters long, not super long, but like I said, it felt like I'm being walked between prison cells and everyone's staring at me. What's going to happen to this guy? And I just got closer and closer to the barbershop, and a couple of them were standing outside, and the rest inside you could see through the windows. Now everyone's looking at me because I'm clearly heading for the barbershop, and they're all discussing like, uh-oh, what the heck is he doing? And then I'm there, standing in front of someone face to face, and I have to figure out what to say. So I have a terrible conversation in Chinese about the haircut I wanted, which I studied some of these words. So it was haircut, long, not short, long. Something like that. That was basically what I was saying to these guys. Except you can imagine in the accent I was doing, it was much more like horket, lang, no shirt lang. Like something like that. But after they were very patient with me for, I don't know, what seemed like forever, but was probably 5 minutes. They understood what I wanted. I showed them the picture. And I think I even said like, is this haircut? And they said, yes, this is haircut. And after I showed them the pictures and we had established they were going to give me a haircut, they swept open their arms and gestured me inside. I checked the price again beforehand. It was something like 10 yuan, maybe 8 yuan, so a solid $1.50 or $1.75, and I was guided over to a chair. Now, I had gotten plenty of haircuts in the US before, and they put you in the chair, put the cloak on, start cutting your hair. So I was like, here we go. Ready for it. And then the chair falls backward. He kicks a lever, and it just swings, reclines backward pretty quickly. But for the last few inches, kind of slows down, and then now I'm lying down looking at the ceiling. Why am I looking at the ceiling? And I was very confused, but I didn't know how to ask them what was happening or why I was looking at the ceiling. And I'm sure they were telling me because they were all talking, but I had no idea what was going on. And then water turns on, and I was like, oh, are they going to wash my hair also? I've never enjoyed such decadence. And then they started rinsing my hair, and then they started lathering and doing the scalp massage and cleaning my hair, and my brain froze at how comfortable it was, as described above. It was a nirvanic experience. Just rinse, lather, scrub, rinse, towel, unreclined towel. And the whole thing was this blur. But the entire time they were washing my hair, I was in a state of bliss. I was so happy. That was definitely the first scalp massage I had ever experienced. And afterward, my hair felt maybe the cleanest it had ever felt. It was undoubtedly washed to a degree that I hadn't taken the time to dedicate to my hair before. And I also just felt energized and rejuvenated after such a thorough cleansing and massage. So yeah, rinse, lather, scrub, rinse, towel, unreclined, towel, air dry. And now they are ready to cut my hair. With my hair in a state of angelic flow. I don't even care about the haircut at this point. I don't care about the haircut at all. All I want is to pay them for more hair washing. And the rest of the haircut was me wondering how I could just pay them money to wash my hair for a longer period of time. And I was thinking like, how often does my hair get oily enough for a hair wash? I was like, basically every day. You jog a lot anyway, so you could do this like pretty often. The problem was I had to figure out all those words and ask them how to do it. But that is how I found out about this hair washing experience in China that is very much like a massage, and thus was born my love of Chinese haircuts. And I get haircuts in other countries occasionally, but it's always utilitarian. It's always... The haircuts in other countries always seem to deal with just the hair, whereas in China, the haircuts seem to consider the scalp as well as part of the haircut, which is a very interesting distinction that I would never have noticed if I had not gotten this haircut in China. Like when they talk about hair, tou fa. Fa means hair, tou is head, tou fa, so it's head hair. But I think that indicates that they're including the head part, the scalp itself, as part of your hair, which of course it is, the hair root is inside there. But most countries think of it as what I would consider just hair. So in most countries, when you're getting a haircut, you're getting your hair cut. Whereas in China, when you get a haircut, you're getting a treatment for your scalp and the hair coming out of it as a holistic unit, a holistic treatment. It's definitely a different feel than I get in many other countries, any other country that I've been to. And you can pay for hair wash, as you know, in other countries and stuff. It's just that in China, the whole haircut experience is thought of holistically instead of, we have a separate treatment for your scalp. That's your skin. We have a separate treatment for your hair. No, the hair and the scalp are connected. That's the part of this I find so culturally interesting. The holistic perspective that Chinese culture extends to so many aspects of life that I would never have considered before. I thought of my hair as just the hair that was sitting on top of my head, no connection, just some dead cells on the top of my head, basically. You can buy just the hair washes in China, just the same way you can buy a haircut. You can actually buy those holistic hair washes. But I didn't know that at the time, and my communication skills weren't good enough. I didn't know to ask for that because I didn't consider that you could only get a hair wash, because that seemed so frivolous to my Western sensibilities, although it's obviously a very important, integral thing to your holistic health, so it makes perfect sense in China that they offer hair washes in addition to haircuts. It's as normal to get just the hair wash as it is to just get the hair cut. Whereas I feel like in the countries I'm visited and the one I'm from, the hair wash is almost always seen as a bit more of a luxury rather than a utilitarian. And like I said, it's $3, $4 for the entire experience, $2 for just the hair wash. You're not exactly breaking the bank, and this is a luxury experience that I cannot recommend enough. It's just so enjoyable. And you're sparkling clean afterward, or your hair is. If I'm not in China, I don't go to barbers much. I'll try it once in a new country, but if the experience is, like I said, non-holistic, it's just, yeah, we cut your hair to the length you want. That's something I can do anyway myself, and I don't have to spend the time going to the barbers when I could go to the market or something like that. Climb a mountain. So I don't go to barbers much in other countries, but when I am in China, I exclusively go to barbers and sometimes just get the hair wash from a professional rather than doing it myself, because it's basically like a mini massage and cleanse for more than a fair price by, stylists for life. #stylists for life. So that is how I found out about these hair washes the first time. And after that, like I said, I just wasn't paying attention to anything. They cut my hair, it looked fine. I didn't care because I had discovered a new exultant pleasure in life to get a hair wash in China. And speaking of that massage, there's actually a full scalp and face massage, but that really needs its own episode because as nice as this hair wash is, it only lasts 5 minutes maybe, and is a real scrub-a-dub, just scrubbing the whole time. Whereas the Toliao, this facial and scalp massage I'm talking about, is a full 20-25 minute massage of the face and scalp, and great googly moogly do I feel like I'm walking on sunshine after one of those. They're really interesting too because I've gotten a few of them, I'll say 10, because I didn't find out about the Toliao later on, the full scalp and face massage. So I didn't have opportunity to get a lot of them. But every time I get them, they're different. They'll use a different liniment. Sometimes they don't use an oil. There's just a whole bunch of different methods that go into the full scalp and face massage, the Toliao. So I will talk about that in another episode. I hope if you have the chance to visit China, which you should, very fascinating country, the people are great, that you take the time out of your schedule to get a haircut and most especially to get that hair wash and experience this joy for yourself. Thank you. You can talk to me on the Lemmy or Reddit communities. You can also email me at bitofarambler@gmail.com. I will catch you on the next one. Oh, and tell me about the haircuts in your country if you have an interesting story to share. I travel to countries based on whimsy, so if the hair washes and cuts are great in your country, that's a good enough reason for me to come visit.